Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be continuing on from my previous part 1 of my Formula 1 2016 season discussion, of which I discussed the teams and drivers of 2016. So last episode I believed I talked about Mercedes, Ferrari, Williams, Red Bull, Force India and Renault. So in this part I'm going to be talking about the rest of the teams and the drivers. Just before we start, I would like to just quickly mention the Red Bull livery launch that took place at 5 o'clock. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you haven't, I won't spoil it for you, but I think it was a disappointment for me because it was a quite a good showing, the actual thing itself, but until Sky Sports held it live on their website, you could only watch it live on Snapchat. So for a lot of people who didn't have Snapchat, it was just wasn't very good. And the livery itself isn't too different. A lot of people, including myself, were hoping for something different, but at the end of the day, it's Red Bull, so it's going to stay pretty much the same. All they've done really is change the blue, the main colour, to a matte and added a little red stripe. That's it. Obviously, the Infinity's gone, and the Tag Heuer branding is, but it's very, very small. So yeah, I think it's not as good as we were all hoping it to be. I actually think I preferred the 2015 livery. Yeah. But anyway, moving on from that. So I think after Renault, I'm going to talk about Toro Rosso, because I'm trying to go in the order of where they finished last season. Anyway, Toro Rosso. So Toro Rosso this year are going to be using year-old Ferrari engines to the specification that it was at the last race last year, so the Abu Dhabi spec. And it was quite a good engine, but obviously Ferrari updated their engine further to the specification that Ferrari themselves, Haas and Sauber are going to have. So they're going to have more powerful, better Ferrari engines than Toro Rosso is going to have. However, their chassis last year was probably one of the best chassis on the grid. It was a really good chassis. It was only let down by the horrible Renault engine. So if they can carry on their chassis, you know how good it is, I think it's going to be a pretty decent year. Maybe they'll finish higher up than they did, because they finished 7th last year. So it probably will be better. But yeah, using year-old Ferrari engines against the 2016 Mercedes, Ferrari, even Renault and Honda engines might not be, as good, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Pardon me. The drivers themselves, Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz, I really like them, especially Max Verstappen. He's only 18, he's a year older than me. He's so young, yet he's so talented. A driver that young, you'd expect them to be making even more mistakes than Pastor Maldonado, but he just seems so mature and so skilled for his age. I think he's going to be one of the greats, I really do. Maybe even up there with Michael Schumacher, or the likes of Michael Schumacher. But, Carlos Sainz, he's a really good driver too. I think last year, not a lot was said about him compared to Max Verstappen, because Max Verstappen was like, oh my god, he's so good. But yeah. No, Carlos Sainz, when you look at him, Carlos Sainz seems a little bit more consistent than Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has that Pastor Maldonado style of just going for it and hoping for the best, but it seems to work out a lot better for him than it did for Pastor Maldonado. He's got some real balls, I'll say that. Yes, he has made a few mistakes, Max Verstappen. Like in Monaco, he had that massive crash with Romain Grosjean, I believe it was. But apart from that, and in Silverstone, he's been pretty faultless. But yes, which one do I think will come out on top? I think Max Verstappen, because Carlos Sainz, I believe, came out on top last year. But if Max Verstappen can gain a little bit more consistency and use his skill better, I think he's going to be really good. Talking about the livery of the Toro Rosso, it's going to be exactly the same. You know, I going back to the Red Bull, I thought it would be different, but it's not all that different. So I don't think Toro Rosso is going to make any changes. Maybe they will, but as a pardon me, as a sister team of Red Bull, I don't think it's going to be any different. A news story that actually just came up speaking about the Toro Rosso livery. Apparently, at the first test, the first 4-day test at Barcelona from the 22nd to the 26th of February, they're just going to be using a blue car. You know, a blue livery, if you like. It's going to be the STR11, the 2016 car, but for the first test, it's only going to have a blue livery. It's not going to be the proper livery. I don't know if that's because they're changing the livery or if that's just because they're not prepared. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't think it's going to be different. So, after Toro Rosso, we come to Sauber. Now, what do I say about Sauber? Last year was definitely an improvement on 2014. However, I think 2015 showed that they're on a really, really small budget. I don't know if it's the smallest on the grid, but from the first race last year till till Spa, it was the same car as the start of the year. Very little had changed on it. Only when it came to Singapore, updates came. It had a new front wing, slightly reshaped aero at the back. However, it wasn't all that much quicker, and they ended up finishing 8th in the constructors. So, how is 2016 going to go? Well, according to Felipe Nasr, the car this year is going to be a massive step up and different from 2015 and 2014, because the 2015 car, as I just said, was heavily based on the 2014 car. If you talk about the front wing, it pretty much looked exactly the same. So apparently, thanks to new technical director, or not, I don't know who he is, Mark Smith, I believe his name was, who designed the god-awful Caterham CT05. You all remember that. I remember it. It's hard to say. I'm not sure what I think of Sauber this season. I think they're going to build on what they learnt last year. However, I'm not 100% sure that they're going to last for much longer in F1. Because with the budget they have, they're a good team. I like them as a team. But, yeah, anyway, let's just move on, because I don't know what to say. Let's just talk about the drivers. Marcus Ericsson and Felipe Nasr. Now, I really like Felipe Nasr and I really like Marcus Ericsson. I think they're both equally matched in terms of pace. Last year, Felipe Nasr was ahead at the start, and then Marcus Ericsson slowly catched up. I'm not sure who finished first in the points. I think it was Felipe Nasr, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, in terms of the livery, in the past, Sauber liveries have been very, very bland. I think that's just the way they do it. I mean, when we all heard that the livery was going to be based off Banco do Brasil, the sponsor of Felipe Nasr, and when you look how beautiful his 2014 GP2 car was, we were all like, oh, it's going to be beautiful. And it was nice. It was very nice, but it was just a blue car with yellow wings and a very small yellow Banco do Brasil thing on the side pod. That's essentially what it was. So I think we're all hoping for a different, more dramatic, if you like to say, livery this year, but being Sauber, they're probably going to stick it to plain and simple. That's what Sauber is. It's plain and simple. Plain and simple. So, yes, I think Sauber, we'll see. I'm not sure what I think of Sauber this year, but we can only hope that it goes well for them, can't we? Right, so let's talk about McLaren, shall we? McLaren's 2015 season was crap. It was utter crap. It was by far one of their worst seasons to date. They finished 9th in the constructors, behind the likes of Sauber, Toro Rosso, and Force India. You know, that's just not where they should be. They should not be in 9th. They should be battling for wins and championships. That's what they're known for. But, I mean, to be fair to McLaren themselves, the actual chassis and the car last year, it was up there. It wasn't the best, but it was alright. It was definitely better than the 2014 one. I quite liked the 2015 livery. That dark grey and red combo. I thought it looked pretty sweet. But the Honda power unit, let's just talk about that. When Honda first announced that it was going to be teaming up with McLaren, which I believe was in 2013, they originally intended for it to be, for the partnership to begin in 2016. However, I don't know who decided this, but they decided to move it back to 2015. So I think the engine wasn't ready. I think because they intended for the engine to be ready in 2016 rather than 2015, it was shit. It was utter crap because it just wasn't ready. The power unit wasn't ready, and you could see that because I remember watching the power up, the first ever power up of the McLaren Honda in Jerez last year, and the engine sounded shit. It sounded like it was going to blow up. Only when an update for the engine came in Sochi, I believe it was last year, it sounded good. Before then, it just sounded so raspy and cluttery and clangy. I mean, and also in terms of power, I think it was about 100 down on the Mercedes of Ferrari, maybe even more than that. So yes, however, apparently one source says that they've managed to find 223 horsepower over the winter. That is bullshit, according, in my opinion, because McLaren themselves have said that's not true and that's an exaggeration. But because the engine was intended to be ready for 2016 and taking in what they learned in 2015 about the engine, I think the engine's going to be pretty good this year. I think McLaren Honda currently has the potential to become a great success. Maybe like Red Bull and Renault from 2010 to 2013. The car itself, I'm not sure how it will be in 2016. I think because the chassis in 2015 was decent, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. They can build on that and learn from that. Speaking about the livery, they have hinted, Honda themselves and McLaren themselves have hinted that the livery is going to be radically different for 2016. And, the first good livery from McLaren probably since... Well, I never really liked the silver-red combo from, I think it was from 2006 to 2013. I never really liked that combo. I just didn't. So, I think McLaren tweeted something a while back saying, what was it? Feeling blue, seeing red. You can all see the McLaren MP431 on the 21st of February. So they have hinted that it's going to be different. I would love to see red and white, but I don't think they're going to do that unless they do something like red, white and grey or red, white and black. Because, the whole red and white thing was because of the Marlboro sponsor they had. And I don't really think... I don't know. I don't think it will be red and white. I just hope that it will be better, and I think it will be. Talking about the drivers, they've kept the same Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button. Jenson Button, arguably the most experienced driver in Formula 1 at the moment. Really like him. I quite like Fernando Alonso, not as much as I used to, but I still like him. I think, however, he made a really, really bad decision to join McLaren Honda in 2015 because he joined there simply to win championships. And I think the 2015 season really brought him down. But I think he and Jenson Button and everybody at McLaren and Honda are motivated and committed to have a fantastic 2016 campaign. I really hope they do because I want them to, and I'm sure the rest of you do too. I'm really sorry, but I've got a lot of wind. Sorry. Anyway, so 2 more teams to talk about. I'm going to save Haas for last because that's a whole new team. I'm going to talk about Manor. Now, I'd probably say Manor has chances this year. I'll say they have chances. Last year they had no chances because last year they were using essentially the Marussia, I think it was the MOR3 or the MO3. I can't remember what it was called, but yes, they were using the 2014 chassis, which wasn't good at all, really. Year-old Ferrari engines. They were using the Ferrari engines from 2014, and the Ferrari power unit in 2014 was rubbish compared to the Mercedes one. didn't have really any power at all. So they finished last with no points in the Constructors' Championship. However, they're using Mercedes engines this year, and they've got on a lot of, since the end of last season to this season, they've brought on a lot of key members of staff. They've brought in people who used to work at the likes of McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull. And they've got access to Ferrari's wind tunnel and things like that. So, I think Manor are going to be midfield runners this season. I don't think they're going to challenge the likes of Force India and Williams, but they're going to be up there, I think, anyway. Yeah, I'm not sure how the chassis is going to be, because I'm not sure, because you've got, from what I can see, they've got a very mixed bag in terms of technical directors, aerodynamicists, I don't know how to say that word, and things like that. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. All I can say is that I really hope it'll go well. Speaking about the livery, last year's livery really was just put there, if you get what I mean. I mean, when it came, I think it was from Australia up until Silverstone, I believe it was, or Austria or something like that, that they just used the same livery as 2014, as Marussia did in 2014. They just took out the black bits. From Silverstone onwards, they added blue side pod thanks to new sponsor Flexbox. I think they're going to design a proper livery in this year, because I didn't feel like the 2015 one was a proper livery. But yeah, I think 2016 they're going to design a proper livery. What is it going to look like? Well, I think they're going to carry on they've got a new logo. It's now called Manor Racing. They've dropped the Marussia name. And the new logo is black and white. So, are they going to use black and white? I don't think so. I think they're going to stick with red, white, and maybe a bit of black, or maybe completely different. I don't know. But yes, the drivers, only one's been confirmed so far, and that is, thankfully, Pascal Wehrlein. It was inevitable it was going to happen, really, because Manor are now heavily linked with Mercedes, and Mercedes really wanted to find a seat for Pascal Wehrlein because, I mean, not a lot of people want to accept it, but they're wanting to replace Nico Rosberg with Pascal Wehrlein in the future. Because I think Nico Rosberg is going to leave F1 at the end of this year, if not at the end of next year. So they want to find a seat for him so that they can build up his experience and build up his skills, so that he can partner Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes in the future. So yes, that was inevitably going to happen. Who's going to be in the second seat? Well, this is an interesting story, because there's a story going round that second seat is going to be shared between three drivers: Will Stevens, Alexander Rossi, and Rio Haryanto. I don't think that's going to happen, because really recently, I think it was yesterday, a lot of sources are saying that Rio Haryanto's 10 million Indonesian oil or something sponsorship deal's been done, and now he's got the seat, which, if that's true, I mean, he's just going to be another paid driver. But with a team that small, with a team with that such, with a team that's got such a low budget, I think it's inevitable there's going to be at least one paid driver, and that paid driver is going to be Rio Haryanto. I haven't heard a lot about him, I haven't seen much about him at all, so I can't really comment on how I think of him as a driver or a character, but we'll see. I mean, I really want Alexander Rossi in there, but I think he's probably going to be a reserve driver, or something like that. Right, now we come to Haas, the brand new American team coming into Formula 1. I'm pretty sure it will be the first American team for the last 35 years or something like that to come into Formula 1. Now, I think Haas is going to be a midfield team, possibly challenging for 5th place in the Constructors. Why do I think that? I shall talk you through it. Haas has a very strong connection to Ferrari. It's using Ferrari engines. It's got access to the wind tunnel and things like that. It's got Esteban Gutierrez, who was carried over from Ferrari. It's got Romain Grosjean in there. It's got a lot of... It looks like it's going to be an interesting team and an interesting car. So what do I say about this? Well, I think in terms of the car, it's going to be a decent one. Excuse me, because they've said themselves that they're going to go for a conservative design this year because they really want to get some points in to build from 2017 onwards, because 2017, I may speak about that in another video, but 2017 is going to be a radical difference in terms of the cars. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. So yeah, so they've said that this year they really just want to build up on resources and things like that. So if they're going to do that, they're going to need a reliable car, aren't they? So I think that's what they're going to go for. In terms of livery, I really can't comment. I mean, they've got I have a feeling it's going to be black and red, based on the fact that they've got a red logo and their show cars have been black. I mean, I could be wrong, but a lot of people are saying it's going to be yellow. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be black and red. Well, I have a feeling it's going to be black and red. And if that's the case, let's hope that McLaren change the livery, or we're going to have 2 black and red cars, and they may look quite similar. But yes, the drivers... Sorry. The drivers. Romain Grosjean is a number 1 driver, and I quite like him. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he couldn't show his potential that much in Lotus, because I don't think, in 2012 he made a lot of errors, nearly as many as Pastor Maldonado did. From that he gained a lot of sorry, I have no idea why I just did that. Yeah, so they had a lot of he had a lot of experience from 2012. I think he actually got a 1-race ban that season. 2013 was okay, but 2014 and 2015, it wasn't him, it was a car. The 2014 and 2015 Lotus cars weren't great. The 2014 one was especially bad, so he couldn't show his skill that much. I think with Haas, he said himself he's taking a risk moving to a team that has no experience whatsoever, so... Well, no, Haas has experience in other motorsports. I know it has experience in NASCAR, but it doesn't have any experience in Formula 1, is what I meant. So yes, Romain Grosjean, I think he has the potential to do well. Second driver, Esteban Gutierrez. He raced with Sauber in 2013 and 2014. I don't think he was fantastic, but to be fair to him, he was young, he was new, he was inexperienced. The Sauber cars... the Sauber car in 2014 was awful. It didn't gain any points at all. The Sauber car in 2013 was decent, but he was heavily overshadowed by Nico Hülkenberg. But Nico Hülkenberg's a great driver, so I think up against Romain Grosjean, he's going to have a tough time, unless he surprises him and he turns out to be fantastic. I don't know. But yes, that's all the teams and drivers done. That's all this video was. I think 2016 has the potential to be one of the best seasons, or the best season in a while for Formula 1 in my opinion, and with the opinion of a lot of other people, it's going to be a fantastic season. Yeah, I think one of the main worries, if you like, for me, is that the liveries are not going to be as good as everyone's saying they are. I mean, we've already seen the Renault livery, which is just black with flashes of yellow. We've seen the Red Bull livery, which was disappointing. And, I could be wrong. I mean, I'm looking forward to see the Ferrari because, there's reports saying that there's going to be more white on the car, or it's going to be more predominantly white. And they've released a couple of videos of seat fitting, and in Sebastian's one, you can see white on the chassis. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I think that it could be disappointing. But we'll see what happens. So yes, that was all that this video was about. I hope you enjoyed, and I might be back soon to talk further on this season or what's to come. I don't know, I might do, because I'm a heavy F1 fan, if you haven't already guessed. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I shall see you in the next video, whenever that will be. Goodbye!